I'm joined today by Tudor Clee from New Zealand, who will host the panel of the younger men who have visited every country in the world. Hi, Tudor. How are you?
I'm very well, Francisco. Thanks for having me on.
Are you in New Zealand right now, or where are you at?
I'm actually in Thessaloniki in Greece, meeting my new in-laws and getting the full Hellenic grandmother VIP treatment. So I'm having to sit on a sofa because I've eaten so much food and dessert. I'm unable to move at the moment.
Nice, nice. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the 193?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a lawyer in New Zealand, and I worked pretty hard for 3 or 4 years, and ended up going on a trip to North Korea and met someone who had been to about 100 countries. And I thought, and I didn't even know that you could even get an airplane to most countries in the world. It's just one of those things that if you haven't heard about it being done, or you just don't have it in your sphere. And so I basically went back to New Zealand and said, why don't I go to more interesting places, and set out. And I knew it would take about 7 years in the way that I was doing it. And then I finished with Angola just over 4 years ago today. Wow. And then since then, I've focused on visiting dependent territories, unrecognized territories. And if there's one thing I can say, I actually think that the territories are more interesting than countries generally, if you're interested in museums and geopolitics.
Interesting, interesting. Well, we'll see what the other people that have visited 193 countries think about that, what they have to say.
Great, thanks very much. So we've got a panel. Are you bringing people in, Francesco? We've got some very interesting speakers. We have from all over the world. We have Gunnar joining us, who is, of course, Norwegian. We have an American here. We have Sam. Alvaro from Wanderreds, who is Spanish. And Anderson, who is Brazilian. So we've got a great global representation in the panel today. Oh, and finally we have Sal, another American, if I'm correct. So so can everyone on the panel hear me okay? If I wanted to ask, throw it out to the panel. I just mentioned about how I'd ended up knowing it was possible to do this. Was there a person in real life or in fiction that sparked this idea in any of you to set out to visit every country? And who was it, and how did that play out?
Well, I can say thank you for that to my dad. When I was 4 years old, he was working as a medical doctor on a cruise ship in the Pacific. And of course, I couldn't read as a 4-year-old. So he sent home these amazing stories in the form of audio cassette tapes. And that really inspired me. So I remember telling my mom that when I get as big as my dad, then I'm also going to travel to a lot of countries. So I guess that's where it started for me.
One of the first people, I guess, to ever go to every country, his name is John Klaus. He did it like in the 70s or the 80s. He was from the small town in Indiana where I grew up, and I met him when I was younger, and I just thought that was so cool and incredible that he had done that, and so it inspired me to get it done as well.
Just want to quickly say thanks to Harry and the NomadMania team for bringing this together. Pretty fantastic community of people, but I grew up actually not too far from where Sal grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Midwest of the United States. And most of my travel as a kid was playing competitive ice hockey around the country. And so that was really what travel was to me until after college, when I took my first job in Singapore. And that's when things really, expanded. I was in the heart of Southeast Asia. I had the world's best airport in my backyard. And, things kind of spiraled from there.
Great. Alvaro?
Thank you very much for everything. I think the digital is the new thing. If you're a traveler, even if you don't have money, I start with a very poor family. I start without money, and I use the internet to make money while I'm traveling. So I think the internet, the digital is the future, is the present now. If you have time to invest in yourself, to learn more about how can you make money online. I think you can travel more and you can inspire another people. I'm really sorry I can't hear any one of you guys. I don't know if you are listening to me, but at least I would like to share this message, because this message changed my life, and I'm sure it's going to change more lives if you start to use the internet to make your dream reality. Thank you very much.
It's a great message, Anderson. I think we all heard you. Thank you so much for joining. For me, it's a pleasure to be here sharing this travel party with all of you great travelers. And it's a little bit of what Anderson was saying. Back when I started and I set the goal to visit every country, it wasn't such a big thing on social media as it is now. We have so many inspirational figures. I just was a freak of the world's map since I was a kid, and I always wanted to reach everywhere, not really as an attainable goal, but I did have it. I did start off whilst I was traveling to every country. Whilst I was keeping a 9-to-5 job, I had this goal of going to every country. But then if I had to name a person, he's in this panel, is my friend Salvatore Lavallo, and he finished 2 years before I did. And he was one of the few people I had, close contact with that I knew was close to finishing. So that really inspired me that it was possible, that it was actually something I could do.
That's great, guys.
So you could say something, man. You're smiling like a little girl, but you're not saying anything.
Well, I was just going to say that I finished 2 years before you, but now you're ahead of me in the NomadMania count.
Oh, yeah, but it's normal. I'm doing it full time, man. You're an important businessman in Abu Dhabi. It's only normal.
This is Hakuna Matata, guys. This is how it happens. It changes. Actually, on that topic, I did want to do a shout out. I should have said to Boris Kester. That was the first blog of someone I'd ever seen. And I was very glad to meet him through these forums to be able to say that was a big one. So a bit of a lighthearted question for you guys. What's the best or memorable reaction you've had when you've dropped it in conversation that you've been to every country?
For me, most people don't understand what every country means. They like, okay, but have you been to North Korea? I don't know why people think North Korea is one of the hardest ones. Probably it is now after the pandemic, but a lot of people always ask, oh yeah, but what about this country? What about the other country? And nobody really understands what every means, no?
I was going to quickly jump in on that similar. I'll say I've been to every country in the world, and so often the next thing people say is, have you been to X country, like Saudi Arabia or something? And they just didn't fully understand the statement of I've been to every country.
No, it's quite. I experienced exactly the same thing. So yeah, I don't think people get the concept, and it's strange, and it's always the same with me. Have you been to North Korea? Have you been to Syria? Have you been to Afghanistan? And they try to make sure prove you wrong in a way, which is quite hilarious.
Well, you've been twice.
Yeah, you've been twice.
Well, exactly. So
now you need to explain to people what twice means, because they're probably
exactly, maths is hard, eh?
So that's, I think it's an interesting point that, guys, we've got about 2 minutes left. Really interesting point that for a lot of us, it was maybe someone close to us or someone that we met who inspired us to do this. And now there's the internet where you can reach out and see all of these people. And I think in most of your cases, you've written books about it or you have blogs. So I think there's going to be more people reaching out. Let's say you get hit up on Facebook by someone who says, I want to be like you. I want to do this. Where do I start? What's a short answer you'd give them apart from buy my book?
I would just say that people already set up a really high goal without even starting, no? I think for most of us, and people are saying in the previous panels, we start traveling, we go to a few countries, and from then, as you become an expert traveler, you set the goal of going to every country. But what I'm seeing more now is people following people on social media and saying, okay, I want to go to every country. I've been to maybe 10 countries. How do I start? How do I do it? Of course, you don't know because you haven't dabbled enough in travel world to understand what it takes. So I would just say start, travel cheap, travel near to your home country. Just get started, and then the rest will be easier as you go.
I was going to, kind of piggyback off that. I would say two key things. One, travel means something different to everybody. So don't let anyone tell you what's good or bad or best or worst. And the second thing is kind of, it was mentioned in one of the earlier panels, is just prioritizing it. Everybody has different, situations, different resources, different interests, but so much of it comes down to, prioritizing it.
I
also agree.
would they want to do it? Or I'll say, like, what is your purpose in it? It's a very time intensive, money intensive, logistically complicated thing to do. So whenever somebody tells me they want to go to every country, I always just say why. And if the only answer is to say that they've done it or just to do it, then I don't think it's that's good enough reason. So I always tell people, like, have a passion that travel aligns well with, and then you can achieve both at the same time.
I also say
That's great.
Start small, travel nearby, and then probably try to divide it up, because as you were mentioning earlier, it's a lot of hard work. It's not for everybody. If you divide it up, for instance, a continent or 50 countries or all the countries in the continent, it's much easier, I think, for most people. And then you can sort of you can stop without losing face because you didn't make it.
Well, I guess for you, Gunnar, you'd say to someone, before trying to do it twice, try to do it once, right? Start small.
Start small.